This is Matt Sydal. Open your third eye for the Wrestling Epicenter.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Namaste, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio, right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. My name is James Walsh, and this week we bring you an Impact Wrestling superstar. In fact, we bring you the Impact Wrestling X Division champion of the world, Matt Sydal. What a great interview with a interesting guy. He's a little different, a little offbeat, a little different than myself, that's for sure. But I'll tell you what, he's a hell of a talent. Always has been his own man, always has done it his own way, and look what he's done for himself. A former WWE Superstar, former Impact Grand Champion, current X Division Champion. Got nothing but nice things to say about Matt Sydal. I think you guys will like what we do with this interview. I encourage everybody to check out Impact Wrestling on Pop TV this Thursday night. If you've not seen it, the new stage looks incredible. The production, it's just so sharp and crisp. It looks really good, and there's stuff that they're doing on that show that is just incredible. I love what's going on with Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan. They've really created an interesting character with Eddie Edwards that has run the gambit. It's ironic that they've had Tommy Dreamer appear, because some of the stuff that they've been doing has reminded me of ECW Tommy Dreamer, as well as Bret the Hitman Hart. So they managed to meld the King of Hardcore, as they're calling him, Tommy Dreamer's stylings, with the excellence of execution of the Hitman himself, Bret the Hitman Hart. I also loved the return of Rosemary to save Allie this past week on Impact. That is such a built-in storyline to have her feud with Su Yung. Great stuff. And, of course, the X Division is buzzing more so than it has probably since the Wednesday night pay-per-view days. Really, really enjoying what Impact Wrestling is doing right now. Check it out. Impact on Pop. Check out the Global Wrestling Network. And, of course, remember, July 22nd, Impact Wrestling presents Slammiversary on pay-per-view. Be sure and check out last week's interview with Ring of Honor superstar Cheeseburger. Of course, the teleconference featuring Kiera Hogan, and so much more. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all of our interview archives, all of our great content, and, of course, our store. And, of course, check out ImpactWrestling.com for the latest from Impact Wrestling. Enjoy this interview.
What's up? It's the mayor of Slamtown, Johnny Impact, and you are in the Epicenter.
The darkness that I see below, show me the light and hope in your eyes evermore. It's just another day. Life goes on without you. It's just another day. No more tears, no more tears anymore. It's just...
This is Josh Matthews, and you are in the Wrestling Epicenter.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. On the Newsmaker line with me right now is a guy I've been wanting to have on since he returned to Impact Wrestling just a couple of years ago. Actually, about a little over a year ago, year and a half or so. He is airborne, Matt Sydal. Mr. Sydal, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
It's so great to have you on the show. So we had Petey Williams on the show leading into Redemption. Obviously, that did not go his way at Redemption. Thoughts on your match with Petey Williams this past Sunday at the pay-per-view?
Yeah, well, you definitely bet on the wrong horse there, pal. I mean, Petey Williams is a guy who made his career off of trying to break my neck. He made a name for himself. And I decided that at Sunday at Redemption, I was able to use him as a platform for my stand in the X Division. And really, you can be the champion, that's great, but you have to defend your title, and that was it's a defense I'm proud of. I stand behind, and I welcome. In fact, my next challenger's an incredible wrestler that I won the X Division title from, Ishimori. And
Ishimori, yeah.
It's like, this is why I'm here. I want to be the apex of these kind of matches. I want to be the circle that everybody has to pass through if they want to make a name for themselves. And, nice try, Petey, but not this time. Ishimori, I can tell you one thing about the belt is that it's not that I'm attached to it. It's attached to me.
Absolutely. And the Ishimori match is going to air this Thursday on Pop TV, so be sure everybody checks that out. We talked with Petey about the X Division title and how it's changed over the years. Maybe not the title's changed, but the wrestling circuit, the wrestling scene has changed. And I'm going to quote an Austin Aries comment from a recent teleconference. He said that the problem with the X Division is that when it started, not everybody was doing the X Division style, and now it's kind of become the adopted style by almost every wrestler. Does that help the X Division, and how do you feel about that comment?
Well, I think that if everybody's doing that style, then there are a few people who truly embody it, and everybody else is an imitator. So what you have is a bunch of people who will forever be my challengers, and someone like me who truly does embody the spirit of the X Division, the original, the OG style of the X Division. That's me. I am that man. And so, of course, I'm the champion. Of course, the X Division belt found me. The belt's been through a lot of incarnations, but what it has is a lineage that you can stand behind, a lineage that you can believe in, a lineage that is what wrestling is today. The crest of the wave is now. I'm not like any other wrestler. And I'll tell you one thing for sure about me is I don't even watch other wrestling, not one bit. I'm not influenced by anyone else at all except myself. All my influences come from looking inward, not externally. So if people are going to continue to do that X Division style that now everybody else does, well, they will be left behind in my dust because I am doing the newest style. Because as X Division champion, I set the trend, I set the pace. And this X Division is getting pretty psychedelic, and I like the way it's looking.
I love it. So Impact Wrestling has had its ups and downs with the internet. I think we all know that. I've been a fan since the beginning, but there's been some times when the internet's been downright critical of the company, but that's not been the case of late. In fact, the last set of tapings I've not read a negative review of. Josh Matthews just earlier today, your spiritual advisor, we'll get to him in a minute, said that it was the best thing that Impact Wrestling has done in multitude of years. Thoughts on the most recent Impact Wrestling tapings and the direction the company is currently headed?
Well, all I can tell you about those tapes is simply one thing: is that these tapes were the ones where I was most heavily involved. Josh, call it what you want, but I tell you what, I was integral to these tapings, and I really felt like I was able to get what I've been trying to say across. And I think as the weeks unfold, people will be able to enjoy our product. They'll be able to log on. They'll be able to check it out on Pop. I always stand behind everything I do. And I don't pay attention to the people who are who downplay things, nor do I pay attention to the ones who grovel at our feet and tell us we're the greatest. For me, that's just noise. I'm out there to produce the best content, the most creative content I can do, and express myself in a really unique way through wrestling. And that's what I did at these tapings. And so when you watch what happens at these next tapings, the Impact, if you're a fan of wrestling, you got something to watch. I don't know how much time you got in your weeks to watch wrestling or to watch TV. Quite frankly, you'd be better off walking around a park with your phone not in your hand. But then when you're done with that, then come in and watch some wrestling. Impact is a show that I won't say we've always – one different thing that I can tell you about backstage was there's a lot of monitor sellouts this set of tapings. People really wanted to see what was happening in the ring, and the production's coming together. The production looks great. Impact's just always improving at all angles. There's a lot of creativity and thought going into everything, and I'm happy to be part of it as we move forward. And I'm happy to move this ship in a wild direction. I'm able to make a lot of moves and steer things in the direction that I've wanted to my whole career.
Really awesome. Now, you've worked for all three major wrestling companies. I know you say you don't watch any other wrestling, but you kind of touched on it there. But how does the current Impact roster compare to the wrestling locker rooms you've been around throughout your career?
What are the top three wrestling companies? IWA Mid South, Dragon Gate, and Rev Pro in the UK. No, WXW, New Japan. You know what I'm saying, man? I mean, I've not just three. I mean, I've been in every locker room everywhere. It's been a very fortunate career.
Yeah, I got a question about a random one that you were part of too, but I more meant WWE, ROH, and Impact, of course.
Okay. What about them?
Just how did the current Impact roster compare to the other rosters you've been around through your career?
Well, you know, that's the thing is I always love the locker rooms that I end up in. There's so much good talent. I mean, I had so many awesome matches with the Usos, Primo, and Epico. Like me and Kofi tore it up for years. I wrestled Chavo. I mean, I wrestled Jericho. I had so many fun matches there. Ring of Honor, I had awesome matches both before, like all the stuff I got to do with Chris Daniels and AJ Styles and Ring of Honor, both before and after my turn in WWE. You know, working with Will Ospreay before he broke out of England, working with him in Japan, Marty, the Bucks. I mean, I've just been forever super lucky. So in this Impact locker room, we've got some insane talent, like guys you need to keep your eye on, like Desmond Xavier and Zach Wentz. The OVE guys are killing it. The LAX and OVE had this insane feud over the last few tapings that really those guys stepped up. Brian Cage, Austin Aries, John Morrison is returning from a secret location that may not be disclosed. So John Morrison will be back soon. I mean, this is just you know, all you can do is keep swinging for the fences, and that's what we do. You know, the good, whether it's good or bad, it all comes from a good place. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad Josh thought these tapings were good. Clearly, his spiritual path is right. He's got his third eye opened wide, and I expect everybody else to do the same.
Cool. What's it like to have Josh Matthews as your unofficial manager, as your spiritual advisor?
Well, I mean, let's just call it successful.
All right. So I said I was going to ask you a random question about a random company you worked for, and Impact Wrestling just recently did a show with Lucha Underground, and a lot of people call the precursor to Lucha Underground Wrestling Society X, and you were a part of that promotion. I loved it when it aired, but it didn't last very long. I argue that maybe if it was around now, the market would have been bigger for it. What do you think?
Well, I think it is around now. It's called Lucha Underground. It was a trial phase with a lot of the same people. It was a West Coast show with a lot of West Coast producers, a lot of good minds behind it. They just had a lot of years between WSX and now to learn, to grow, to evolve with the business, to find new stars. You know, because all the people at WSX season 1, I mean, are the people who've been the lifeblood of the alternative wrestling business and now the mainstream wrestling business as well. And so that's what Lucha Underground is doing. It's taking guys who belong in that mainstream, in the main vein of wrestling, and is giving them the exposure and the respect and the connection to the audience that they deserve. And hopefully they're getting paid. You know, for me, I just like seeing these guys getting paid, and hopefully everybody is too.
Absolutely, and we saw WrestleMania weekend. We mentioned the Lucha Underground crossover show. We saw just how many wrestling promotions are out there that are viable and profitable. You know, it's really something to behold. That even though there's obviously a juggernaut that runs the wrestling industry at the top, there's so many other promotions that are doing such great things. Thoughts on the current wrestling scene as a performer who's been through the independents, through the early part to now?
Yeah, you know, I'd just like to thank the Young Bucks for all the houses. You know, that was really cool of them, and then all the guys in New Japan to pop this generation. I remember when I left WWE and I started wrestling again, and I wrestled in England and Germany, and I could just tell that this onflux of this new wave was coming, much like it felt right when I began wrestling back in '99. It felt the same. And what was coming out of England was original acts, people doing it on their own, people not looking for permission, people just taking it. The ECW mentality was reborn, and those guys have generated fans and new crowds that are generating a whole new era of wrestling where the underground is the overground, where the internet has given pure equality and access to everyone, and the cream rises to the top and gets their own audience and doesn't need to rely on anyone. It's an era of not take a job, it's make your own job, create your own job, and that carries over from wrestling to anything that fans listening at home want to do with their lives. Be more like the Young Bucks. I mean, the number one thing that we all did right was when they told us not to try it at home, we did. I mean, when people told us no, we knew that they were wrong and we were right, that we should try it at home and we should have fun with it. We did understand it, and we in fact understand it deeper than anyone else. And that way, when we put on our performances, they connect deeper than anyone else has to this date. And wrestling continues to be an excitement-generating monster. And you go to a Ring of Honor show to watch the Bucks, you go to an Impact Wrestling show, watch Pentagon Phoenix, me, Brian Cage, John Morrison. I mean, you're never going to run out of incredible wrestling to watch, to see live. It truly is a era of abundance, and we're all really lucky to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And as a guy who's never really been, at least not since maybe 1993, never really been a WWE guy, it's cool that I have options. So I want to thank you guys for doing what you do. And it's been a great time for me as a wrestling fan to have a lot of choices. We're going to wrap up with a little bit of a softball question for you. We're heading into Slammiversary. It'll be the, gosh, I feel old, 16th anniversary of Impact Wrestling, of TNA as it was. Thoughts on the upcoming TV tapings and the upcoming major pay-per-view, Slammiversary?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is for everyone to open their third eyes and to start seeing things from a higher perspective. The X Division champion has begun a reign of psychedelia across the X Division, and things are not going to be what's expected. The way things are presented will be different than ever before. The opposite of whatever you expect will be seen, because that is the kind of creativity I will be producing. I will be the person to keep the spotlights on, keep that fog machine on, for the love of God. Fog these places out, smoke the places out. Everybody's going to start to tune into this song I'm singing. Everybody's starting to move with the beat. The third eye open is catching on. Everybody's starting to get the message, the transmission. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Wrestling is a chance to find the others. Well, actually, let's just say Timothy Leary said that first. But it's what we mean when we say find the others. You can feel all alone and feel like you're the only one. But through wrestling, you realize that there's a lot of other people out there. So find the others, stick with them, and we're all stronger together. And that's why that X Division belt, it keeps itself around my shoulder, and I'm not even attached to it.
Awesome. I love it, man. All right, one last favor from you. Can I ask you for just a station ID, just saying this is Matt Sydal, and you're in the Wrestling Epicenter?
Yes.
Would you like me to do the whole Wayne's World countdown thingy?
Could you just say one more time, and then I'll just say it back.
Okay, cool. This is Matt Sydal, and you're in the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is Matt Sydal. Open your third eye for the Wrestling Epicenter.
This is the Wrestling Epicenter. For over 15 years, we've brought you the top names in professional wrestling for exclusive interviews. Everybody you see here has been interviewed by our site. But we're more than just interviews. So be sure and check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for news, results, information, and of course our store. WrestlingEpicenter.com, your #1 source for wrestling information.